Before I go into the video, I did want to let you know that I did make a new Discord. Consider supporting the channel by joining it. It is free to join. Because it's new, if you want to help create a great community, come by and check it out. Now with that out of the way, let's get into this week's video. So what's going on YouTube? This is Devin coming back at you with another video today on PubStomp MTG. Glad to have you here. So I want to say Jumpstart spoilers are completely over. I'm not 100% sure, but we do have this awesome new Merfolk commander. And to be honest, I was expecting a Merfolk tribal commander, but we actually got something pretty cool with sea monsters. So Kenessos Priest of Thassa reads, if you would scry a number of cards, scry that many cards plus 1 instead, and you may pay 3 and a Simic hybrid color. Look at the top card of your library. If it's a Kraken, Leviathan, Octopus, or Serpent creature card, you may put it onto the battlefield. If you don't put the card onto the battlefield, you may put it on the bottom of your library. So kind of like a super scry right there. I know last year in Crimson Vow, we did get an awesome commander with Runo Stromkirk and also Krothos, the Lord of the Deep. But I feel personally this is going to be better because we are in Simic Colors. Green is better at ramp than black. Plus this is 1 cheaper and also has a great ability to cheat in your Leviathan, Octopuses, Serpents, and Krakens. Just a big handful of words. However, the big reason why I like this commander compared to most of those Sea Monster tribal commanders is this is very cheap. It's just 2 mana to invest into the commander. Plus we can keep on scrying our way to get our Kraken so that we could activate that ability so that we can put them onto the battlefield for free. So what kind of cards do we want to scry with? So this one's definitely a no-brainer because this is the Priest of Thassa. So we have Thassa, God of the Sea right here. As it reads, at the beginning of your upkeep, scry 1 and you may pay 1 and a blue. Target creature you control can't be blocked this turn. So she does have a lot of great utility right here. We can make sure our sea monsters can't be blocked. Another card that got me interested with brewing this commander was the Temporal Anchor. I really do like it for that scry ability of scrying 2, and also you can play cards exiled with the Temporal Anchor as well, so you're not losing those cards you scry to the bottom. So that's a good one right there. Another great artifact to add into the list would be Lifecrafter's Bestiary. So at the beginning of your upkeep, you can scry 1, and whenever you cast a creature spell, you may pay a green, and if you do, you draw a card, so that's really great right there for utility. So I definitely throw that in there as well. Usually I don't play the Temple Cycles, but actually the Temple of a Mystery actually acts as a pseudo, oh, I get a scry 2 instead of scry 1 when it enters the battlefield, so I think this is a great card to add into the list for a land slot. And lastly, I did want to mention a great sorcery. Ugin's Insight is absolutely perfect in here because we have a lot of huge sea monsters, so we're going to be scrying a whole lot with Ugin's Insight, then drawing 3 cards after that. So scrying is great, but what if you want to look at your library at all times so that you can make sure you always hit those Krakens, Leviathans, Octopuses, and Serpents? So in order to do that, we can definitely have a lot of cards that make sure that we look at the top card of our library whenever we want, like Oracle of Moldiah. Playing the extra lands per turn is really great too. I mean, I'm not so much focused on that because we want to make sure we just look at the top card of our library. Oh, great, it's a Sea Serpent or a Sea Octopus or whatever it is, and we can just slam it down. I also did think of the Reality Chip because for 2 mana investment, you can look at the top card of your library at any time. We don't really need anything else after that, but if we do, that's extra benefit right there. But I would say Vivian Monster's Advocate is absolutely amazing. I don't know why it doesn't get more play in Commander because this is absolutely fantastic, especially in those huge creature decks as well. You can look at the top card of your library, and you can cast creature spells from the top of your library as well. And I love that -2 ability. Honestly, that's the biggest reason why I like this in this list, is because when you cast your next creature spell this turn, search your library for a creature card with lesser converted mana cost and put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. So there's a lot of different scenarios where you could get something really big and then put a little bit something else on there that will end the game really quickly there. And the last top deck manipulator I did want to mention was Visor of Bengari. Again, making sure that we can look at the top card of our library at any time, and then you can cast the creature spells, and also on top of that you can spend any mana to cast those spells as well. So this is a great utility card in here. Speaking of utility, because we were playing a lot of sea monsters, we want to make sure that we keep the board clear, and we also want to make sure that we could get a whole bunch of sea monsters so that we could overwhelm our opponents for victory. So at first I thought of Engulf the Shore and Whelming Wave. These both help us make sure that we can clear the board. I especially like Whelming Wave because we don't have to return our Krakens, Leviathan, Leviathan, Octopuses, and Serpents from the battlefield. We can just keep them on the battlefield, and the rest of our opponents will have to deal with them. Also, we don't want to rely solely on our commander to cheat in our sea monsters, so we want to make sure we have cards like Quest for Ula's Temple and the World Spell. I especially do like the World Spell because we could dig into our library to search for a creature, and then on top of that, we could put 2 non-saga permanents on the battlefield, mainly our sea monsters. So let's get into the good stuff and talk about what kind of monsters we want to add to our list. So I looked at a lot of different sea monsters on Scryfall. The good news is we have a lot to choose from. The bad news, not a lot of them are super good. With these next couple of sections, I'm going to talk about some of the best creatures you want to add into this list that kind of fit that sub-creature type. So let's first talk about some Leviathans to add into the list. So first I thought of Inkwell Leviathan. This is a great card simply by having Island Walk and Trample and also Shroud, so this can't be targeted. A card that pairs really well with this Inkwell Leviathan is actually Stormtide Leviathan right here. It's kind of like a nice little synergy right here, as Island Walk and all lands are islands in addition to their other types. So Inkwell Leviathan also has Island Walk, so it's perfect right there. Also, it does have that great ability of creatures without flying or Island Walk can't attack. Another fantastic Leviathan I wanted to add into this list would be Trenchgorger. This is really great because it does have Trample, and when it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for any number of land cards, and you can exile them, shuffle your library, and if you do, your power and toughness will be equal to the number of land cards exiled this way. So let's just say it's late game or even beginning game where you get this down early and you want to make sure this swings hard. You could easily sacrifice a lot of your lands in your library to exile them to make sure this gets really big so that you could swing it for a lot of damage. However, it is pretty risky because if you do exile all your lands in your deck, you will not be able to get them back and you will be stuck with no lands for the rest of the game after that. So let's bring in some other sea monsters to add into this list. I thought of Cosmos Serpent. This is honestly one of my favorite cards because I love Norse mythology. This is obviously based off of Jormungandr in the Norse mythology, and this is a really great card in this deck. Honestly, it's really insane what it does. It just has so many different abilities. At the beginning of each, and that's right, each upkeep, you'll make a 3/3 blue serpent creature token named Comus Coil, and also it has an ability of sacrifice another serpent, choose one, tap target permanent. Its activated abilities can't be activated this turn, and Cosmos Serpent gains indestructible until end of turn for its other mode if you want to choose that mode instead. I do actually have a personal Cosmos Serpent deck. It's a clone deck, copying so much Comas on the battlefield and overwhelming my opponents. It's pretty fun. I really like it. Probably my opponents don't like it as much, but I don't know. I find it fun to play Coma a lot. Another great serpent to add into this list would be AC Tyrant of Gyre Strait. This is really great because you may play additional lands on each of your turns, and whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you draw a card. That's simple, no other stipulations. It's a card advantage machine for sure. And also sometimes with our top deck manipulation we have within our deck, we could easily play a lot of lands in our turns to draw a lot of cards that way. And another card I did want to mention is Serpent of the Yawning Depths. I've seen this Serpent end games because not many people play Serpents, Leviathan, Octopuses, and Krakens. So essentially all our sea monsters will be unblockable because of Serpent of the Yawning Depths. I think this is an insane card in here and definitely a game ender. And lastly, I did want to mention Sword Coast Serpent. I do find the utility of this card really interesting, having that adventure side of returning target creature to its owner's hand. So I definitely wanted to add it into this list. I do feel like a large number of the deck is actually going to be Krakens because there's a lot of really great Kraken synergies in Simic. An easy card to add into this list would be Eryximeces, the Slumbering Isle. This could act as a mana dork and slowly, little by little, become a 12/12 creature for 4 mana, so this is a great card in here. Also another fantastic card in here, and honestly a back-breaking card, is Hullbreaker Horror. This is a pretty popular combo card in CDH with like polymorph themes. However, if you're playing a lot of interaction in this deck, honestly it's going to be back-breaking for your opponents like I mentioned before. There's been a lot of hype around this card, so I'm not going to mention it too much. But the next card I am going to mention is really great, and I don't see it a whole lot in Commander. It's Storm Surge Kraken. It has Hexproof and Lieutenant. As long as you control your commander, Storm Surge Kraken gets +2/+2, and has whenever Storm Surge Kraken becomes blocked, you may draw 2 cards. Because our commander only costs 2 mana, this is going to be very easy to activate with that Lieutenant ability, and this honestly usually draws us a lot of cards. So this definitely would be an auto-clued in my opinion. So the last card I did want to mention is absolutely incredible in this list. I have it in my Coma deck because it's just that powerful with the amount of serpents swinging in, but we do have Spawning Kraken. Whenever a Kraken, Leviathan, Octopus, or Serpent you control deals combat damage to a player, create a 9/9 blue Kraken creature token. That's right, it doesn't say one or more creatures deal combat damage, it says basically each. So say for example, spawning Krakens on the battlefield with Coma and let's just say 5 Coma coils, and you have 5 of your Coma coils swinging in. If they connect, you possibly will get 5 9/9 Krakens. That's absolutely absurd in my opinion. So this is probably the most auto-include of auto-includes in this list for sure. But let me know down below, what do you think of this card? Do you feel like it's better or worse than Runo? Let me know down below what your thoughts are. I do feel like sea monsters are a pretty niche tribal and they don't see a whole lot of play, but this might help power them up a little bit by making sure that we can put them on the battlefield. Plus, it's not a sorcery speed. You could actually put them on instant speed with that ability. So this is honestly a great commander for that seed monster tribal theme. So make sure to like, share, and subscribe. That's definitely the best way to support the channel. And with that out of the way, thank you for stopping by.